Welcome. We have left the noise of the 21st century and traveled back more than 2,000 years to stand in the heart of ancient Etruria. Look around you. These weathered tufa stone walls, these painted tombs carved into the hillsides, these bronze mirrors and golden treasures scattered across the Tuscan landscape. They belong to a civilization that ruled central Italy before Rome was anything more than a collection of shepherd huts. The Etruscans, masters of engineering, trade, and art. A people so influential they gave Rome 3 of its kings, taught the Romans how to build cities, how to divine the future, how to construct the very foundations of an empire. And yet, by the 1st century of the Common Era, they had vanished almost completely from history, their language forgotten, their cities absorbed, their achievements credited to others. Over the next 8 episodes, we will journey through the complete story of the Etruscans, from their mysterious origins in the Villanovan culture around 900 BCE to their final disappearance into the Roman world by 27 BCE. We will witness the rise of the 12 great city-states, the Dodecapolis, as they dominated Mediterranean trade routes. We will walk through the painted tombs of Tarquinia and Cerveteri, where banqueting scenes and dancing figures reveal a society unlike any other in ancient Italy. We will stand in Rome itself during the reign of the Etruscan kings and watch as they transform a muddy village into a monumental city. We will explore their workshops, where craftsmen created bronze masterpieces and gold jewelry using techniques that still astound modern artisans. And we will follow their long, slow decline as Roman legions conquered their cities one by one, until nothing remained but ruins and fading memories. This is not just a history lesson. This is a complete journey through time, revealing how an entire civilization rose from the Iron Age, flourished for 6 centuries, and then vanished so thoroughly that even the Romans who inherited their world could no longer read their inscriptions or understand their rituals. What you are about to see shaped everything that came after. The Roman arch, the gladiatorial games, the practice of augury, the fascial symbol that appears on American dimes, the very concept of urban planning. All of it began here, in Etruria, among a people whose painted tombs and bronze mirrors are only now revealing their secrets to archaeologists. By the end of this series, you will understand not just what happened to the Etruscans, but how they built a civilization sophisticated enough to dominate Italy, why they disappeared, and what legacy they left behind that still influences our world today. If you enjoy these complete journeys through ancient civilizations, please subscribe so you do not miss our next exploration. Each week we bring you the full story of a lost world, from its first breath to its final echo. Let us begin our journey at the very beginning, in the mist-shrouded hills of central Italy, where the Villanovan people were about to transform into something extraordinary. The hills of central Italy hold secrets older than Rome, older than the name Etruscan itself. Around 1000 BCE, as bronze gives way to iron across the Mediterranean world, a culture takes root in the volcanic soil between the Arno and Tiber rivers. They leave no written records, no temples, no cities, only the dead speak for them. In clearings among oak forests, villages of oval huts cluster on defensible hilltops. At Tarquinia, at Veii, at Vulci, timber frames support walls of wattle and daub, thatched roofs sloping against winter rains. The living leave shallow traces. The dead receive more care. Cremation transforms the body. Flames consume flesh on pyres of oak and pine, reducing bone to fragments that families gather with reverence. These remains enter vessels of dark clay, biconical urns, their two-part forms echoing the separation of earth and sky, life and death. Potters shape them on slow wheels, burnishing surfaces to dull sheen, incising geometric patterns with bone tools. Zigzags, meanders, concentric circles that spiral inward like paths to unknown destinations. Bronze fibulae, safety pins that once fastened woolen cloaks, accompany the urns into pit graves. Smiths hammer the metal into serpentine curves, practical objects elevated to art through repetition and precision. In women's graves, spindle whirls of fired clay. In men's, iron spearheads still bearing traces of wooden shafts, the new metal that will reshape warfare and agriculture alike. The Villanovan people, named by modern archaeologists for the village where their remains first emerged, work iron in ways their bronze-using predecessors never imagined. Bloomery furnaces glow red in the darkness, charcoal and ore combining at temperatures that demand knowledge passed master to apprentice. The metal that emerges, purified through repeated heating and hammering, holds sharper edges, resists breaking where bronze would shatter. Evidence accumulates in the earth. Certain graves grow larger, their contents more abundant. A warrior's burial at Tarquinia contains not one spearhead, but 5. A bronze helmet, a sword with ivory pommel. Nearby, a woman rests with amber beads from the distant Baltic, glass paste ornaments that traveled trade routes stretching beyond the Alps. Social hierarchies crystallize, visible now in death as they must have been in life. By 900 BCE, the settlements expand. Hut foundations multiply on the plateaus. Defensive ditches scar the hillsides, first barriers between inside and outside, us and them. The villages that will become Etruscan cities begin their slow transformation from temporary camps to permanent places, though their inhabitants cannot know what their descendants will build upon these foundations. The biconical urns continue their silent testimony, row upon row in necropoli that mirror the villages of the living. Clay houses for the dead, arranged in streets that suggest an order, a planning, a belief that the afterlife requires the same structures as mortal existence. The Villanovans prepare the ground, literally and culturally, for something unprecedented in Italy. Cities that will rival the Greek colonies to the south, a civilization that will teach Rome itself how to build, how to rule, how to transform mud and timber into stone and empire. But that transformation waits ahead, beyond the horizon of these iron-working villagers who tend their dead with such care, never suspecting their culture marks merely the beginning. Between 750 and 580 BCE, the transformation accelerates beyond recognition. The Villanovan villages crystallize into something unprecedented in Italy. True cities, walled and monumental, rising from tufa bedrock that builders carve like butter. Tarquinia, Cerveteri, Volzi, Veii, Volterra, Populonia, Vetulonia, Rucellai, Chiusi, Perugia, Cortona, Arezzo. 12 city-states emerge across the landscape between the Arno and Tiber rivers, each autonomous yet bound by shared language, religion, and the annual gathering at the Fanum Voltumne sanctuary. The walls tell the story first. Blocks of golden tufa stone, some weighing several tons, fitted without mortar into circuits that enclose not scattered huts, but planned urban spaces. At Cerveteri, the fortifications stretch for kilometers, protecting a population approaching 25,000. The Porta all'Arco at Volterra frames the sky with its massive arch, 3 weathered stone heads gazing outward. Gods or ancestors, their features already ancient when Rome was nothing. This is the Orientalizing period, named for the flood of Eastern Mediterranean goods that transforms Etruscan material culture. Greek merchants from Cumae, established in 750 BCE on the Campanian coast, sail north with Corinthian pottery, its painted friezes depicting myths the Etruscans adopt as their own. Phoenician traders arrive from Carthage bearing techniques that revolutionize Etruscan craftsmanship, granulation that fuses microscopic gold spheres into jewelry of impossible delicacy, filigree that turns precious metal into lace. The Regolini Galassi tomb at Cerveteri, sealed around 650 BCE, preserves this moment of cultural explosion. Gold breastplates hammered with lions and sphinxes, silver vessels inscribed in an alphabet borrowed from Greek colonists, bronze cauldrons on tripods that echo Phoenician designs, amber from the Baltic, ivory from North Africa, ostrich eggs mounted in precious metal. One woman's burial, perhaps a Lucumo's wife or a priestess, contains wealth that would ransom cities. These Lucumones emerge as a new class, priest kings, who rule individual cities with authority derived from reading divine will in lightning strikes and bird flight. They commission the first stone temples, rectangular structures on high podia, their wooden superstructures decorated with terracotta sculptures painted in vivid reds, whites, blacks. The gods take Greek names but Etruscan forms, Tinia for Zeus, Uni for Hera, Minerva for Athena. The 12 cities never unite under single rule. The Dodecapolis remains a religious league, gathering annually to elect a Zilath, a federal magistrate with limited powers, presiding over games and sacrifices but commanding no army. Each city maintains fierce independence, competing for trade routes, agricultural land, mineral wealth. Yet they share more than language. The alphabet they adopt around 700 BCE, modified from Greek Euboean script, spreads uniformly. Their augural practices, their tomb architecture, their bronze working techniques, these create cultural unity without political centralization. By 580 BCE, Etruria has become the wealthiest region in Italy, its cities controlling trade from the Alps to Campania. The iron mines of Elba feed forges that produce tools, weapons, and art for export across the Mediterranean. In their painted tombs, the dead recline at eternal banquets, surrounded by dancers and musicians, waited upon by servants whose labor built these stone cities from Villanovan clay. The foundations are complete. Now comes the zenith. The Tyrrhenian Sea becomes an Etruscan lake. From Populonia's smoking forges to the harbors of Pyrgi and Gravisca, ships bearing the double-axe symbol ride currents that connect 3 continents. The period between 580 and 535 BCE witnesses transformation from land-based city-states into a maritime empire controlling the central Mediterranean's richest trade routes. Populonia stands alone among Etruscan cities, built directly on the coast rather than inland hilltops. Its position serves singular purpose. Across 12 kilometers of water, Elba's iron mountains glow red in furnace light. Ore crosses the strait in endless procession. On Populonia's beaches, slag heaps grow into black hills as smelters work through seasons. The iron feeds workshops from Etruria to Carthage, from Greek colonies to Iberian Tartessos. Bronze fittings for ship hulls, anchors, grappling hooks. The naval infrastructure of Mediterranean commerce emerges from these coastal forges. The harbors themselves reveal engineering sophistication matching Rome's later ports. At Pyrgi, Cerveteri's harbor town, stone quays extend into protected waters. Warehouses line the waterfront, their foundations still visible beneath later construction. Ceramic transport amphorae, pointed vessels designed to stack in shipholds, accumulate in thousands. Wine from Etruscan vineyards, olive oil pressed in bronze mills, grain from the fertile Maremma plains, all flow outward through these installations. Northward, Corsica becomes the pivot of Etruscan naval strategy. The island's position commands routes between Italy, southern Gaul, and Iberia. Etruscan settlements dot the eastern coast. Their presence challenges Greek Phocaeans expanding westward from Massalia and Carthaginian interests pushing north from Africa. The collision arrives in 540 BCE off Eulalia's waters. 60 Phocaean ships meet combined Etruscan and Carthaginian fleets. The battle produces Pyrrhic Greek victory. They hold the field but lose 40 vessels, their remaining 20 so damaged they abandon Corsica entirely. Herodotus records the aftermath. Etruscan stone captured Greek sailors at Agylla, then suffer divine curse requiring Greek games to appease angry spirits. The account reveals more than superstition. It confirms Etruscan ritual practices surrounding warfare and captives, practices later Romans inherit as gladiatorial combat. The victory secures Etruscan control of Corsican resources and western sea lanes. Trade networks extend to Tartessos beyond the Pillars of Hercules, bringing Atlantic tin essential for bronze production. Egyptian scarabs, Venetian glass, Greek painted pottery, Iberian silver, archaeological evidence from Etruscan tombs, maps commercial connections spanning the known world. Yet naval dominance requires more than ships and harbors. It demands diplomatic architecture. Treaties with Carthage divide Mediterranean spheres of influence. The Etruscans take northern waters, Carthaginians the south. Greek expansion meets coordinated resistance. These agreements, preserved in later Roman historical accounts, represent sophisticated international relations predating Rome's diplomatic systems by centuries. The wealth flowing through Tyrrhenian ports transforms Etruscan cities. Gold granulation jewelry techniques reach new refinement. Tomb paintings grow more elaborate, depicting not just banquets, but the maritime commerce funding aristocratic luxury. The sea has made them rich. It will also make them vulnerable. The transformation begins not with conquest, but invitation. Around 616 BCE, Rome remains a collection of hilltop settlements, separated by malarial marshland. The Forum lies underwater each spring, unusable for commerce or assembly. Into this sodden landscape arrives Tarquinius Priscus, an Etruscan aristocrat from Tarquinia, whose engineering knowledge will reshape the city forever. His workers excavate the Cloaca Maxima, Rome's great sewer. Stone channels cut through volcanic tufa, following Etruscan cuniculi drainage techniques perfected in their own cities. The Forum dries. Markets appear where swamps festered. The transformation proves so fundamental that Romans will maintain these same channels for 26 centuries, water still flowing through Etruscan-cut stone beneath modern streets. Tarquinius brings more than engineering. The Circus Maximus takes shape in the valley between Palatine and Aventine hills, its wooden stands accommodating chariot races modeled on Etruscan funeral games. On the Capitoline, foundations rise for a temple following the Etruscan triple-cellar plan. 3 interior chambers for Jupiter, Juno, and Minerva. Terracotta workers from Vai craft the roof decorations, their antefixes and acroteria displaying the sophisticated ceramic artistry perfected in Etruscan workshops. Servius Tullius succeeds him in 578 BCE. His census system divides Romans into classes based on wealth. an administrative sophistication reflecting Etruscan urban organization. The Servian walls encircle Rome's 7 hills, using massive tufa blocks quarried and fitted with Etruscan masonry techniques. These fortifications will protect the city for 4 centuries. The third king, Tarquinius Superbus, completes the Capitoline Temple around 509 BCE. Its scale dwarfs anything previously built in Latium, a statement of Etruscan architectural ambition imposed on Roman soil. Vulca of Veii, the only Etruscan artist whose name survives in Roman records, sculpts the temple's terracotta statuary. His quadriga, 4 horses pulling Jupiter's chariot, crowns the roof, visible across the city. Yet this same year marks rupture. Roman aristocrats, chafing under monarchical power, expel Tarquinius Superbus. The Republic begins, defined partly by rejection of kings, partly by retention of everything those kings built. The Romans keep the sewers, temples, walls, census system, and religious practices. They keep the fasces, the Etruscan symbol of authority, an axe bound in rods. They keep augury, reading divine will through bird flight and lightning strikes according to Etruscan ritual texts. What they reject is Etruscan political control. The engineering remains, the influence endures. But the masters have departed, leaving their greatest student to surpass them. The living build houses for the dead that outlast their own. Beneath the Tuscan earth at Tarquinia and Cerveteri, between 530 and 470 BCE, Etruscan families carve chambers into bedrock tufa, replicating in stone what exists above ground in wood and plaster. These are not graves but homes, complete with carved ceiling beams, door frames, benches, and pillows sculpted from living rock. The architecture preserves what time has erased from the surface world. Then comes color. Artists descend with mineral pigments ground from iron oxides, copper carbonates, carbon black. They work by oil lamp, applying fresco to smoothed limestone plaster while still wet. The tomb of the leopards at Tarquinia captures a banquet frozen mid-celebration. Couples recline on cushioned clini, the women positioned equally beside men, a detail that shocks Greek visitors accustomed to segregated symposia. Servants move between couches bearing wine craters and food platters. Musicians play double flutes and 7-stringed lyres. A boy dancer leaps, one leg extended, arms raised, captured in perpetual motion. The pigments reveal social structure through detail. The banqueters wear fine linen chittons, their skin painted in gender-specific tones, reddish-brown for men, pale cream for women. Gold jewelry adorns both. Wreaths crown their heads. The servants, darker-skinned, wear simple tunics. Every fold of fabric, every finger position on a wine cup, every strand of a wreath receives attention. This is documentation as much as decoration. At Cerveteri's Banditaccia necropolis, the sarcophagus of the spouses presents the same equality in terracotta. A husband and wife recline together on a single dining couch, their bodies in 3/4 view, faces frontal, archaic smiles fixed. Her arm drapes across his shoulder. Both gesture as if in conversation. The sculpture once held actual objects, perhaps a perfume alabastron, an egg symbolizing rebirth. The dead continue their earthly activities. The tomb of the augurs shows what precedes the feast. Athletes compete in funeral games, wrestling, discus throwing, running. A masked figure called Ferzu controls a dog attacking a blindfolded man with a club. This ritual combat, performed to honor the deceased, will evolve into Roman gladiatorial spectacle. Blood sanctifies the tomb. The painting technique itself speaks of belief. Artists apply pigments in distinct layers. Red ochre outlines first, then flat color fills. Finally, black contour lines defining forms. No shading, no perspective, yet movement flows through compositional rhythm. Figures overlap, creating depth through placement rather than illusion. The style borrows from Greek vase painting but serves different purposes. These images are not for display but for eternity, sealed in darkness after the funeral. The tombs multiply across Etruria's necropoli. Each family claims its chamber, its painted afterlife. The aristocracy who feast in these frescoes control the cities above, the Lucumones and their clans, enriched by Mediterranean trade, commanding bronze workshops and agricultural estates. Their tomb expenditure demonstrates wealth and piety simultaneously. By 470 BCE, the style begins shifting. Later tombs grow darker, introducing underworld demons, Charoon with his hammer, Vanth with a torch. The optimistic banquets give way to journey imagery, the soul's passage through death's threshold. But in these earlier chambers, death remains a continuation, the feast eternal, the music unending, the dancers forever young. The workshops hum with controlled fury. In Vulci, Tarquinia, and Cerveteri, between 550 and 400 BCE, Etruscan artisans transform raw materials into objects that will travel across the known world. The furnaces burn at temperatures their Greek competitors cannot match. The techniques they master will be lost for centuries after Rome absorbs their cities. Bronze mirrors emerge from the lost wax casting process. The craftsman sculpts the original in beeswax, a circular disc with ornate handle, perhaps shaped as a standing woman or crouching athlete. He encases this model in clay, leaving channels for molten metal. The furnace consumes the wax, leaving a perfect negative space. Bronze poured at precisely controlled heat fills the void. When the clay breaks away, the mirror's back surface awaits the engraver's tool. Mythological scenes appear under the scribe's hand. Heracles wrestling the Nemean lion, Turan embracing a Tunis, scenes from Greek legend reinterpreted through Etruscan understanding. The polished front reflects faces that vanished 25 centuries ago. Thousands of these mirrors survive in tombs placed beside the dead for eternity's grooming. Gold granulation achieves microscopic perfection. The jeweler creates spheres smaller than poppy seeds, hundreds of identical gold beads, each requiring individual formation. The technique remains debated even now. Perhaps copper salts mixed with fish glue provide the bonding agent. Perhaps organic compounds create temporary adhesion before final heating fuses the granules to their gold backing. The finished earrings, fibulae, and necklaces display geometric patterns and animal forms composed of these tiny spheres, each catching light independently. Phoenician craftsmen knew granulation, but Etruscan goldsmiths elevated it to unmatched refinement. The Regolini Galassi tomb yielded a parade fibula bearing 60,000 individual granules. Bucchero pottery fills workshops with acrid smoke. The black ceramic requires reducing atmosphere kilns, fires starved of oxygen, producing carbon that penetrates the clay's surface. The potter throws vessels on the wheel, then burnishes the leather-hard surface to mirror smoothness. Stamps press repeating patterns into the clay, spirals, palmettes, processions of animals. The kiln's sealed environment transforms red terracotta into lustrous black. Early Bucchero sottile features walls thin as eggshell. Later, Bucchero pesante grows heavier, with relief decorations molded separately and applied. The ware dominates Etruscan tables from 675 to 400 BCE, exported to Carthage, Massalia, and Greek colonies. Its production secrets die with the workshops. Terracotta temple decorations crown sacred buildings across Etruria. Acroteria, the figured sculptures adorning roof peaks, depict striding gods, rearing horses, mythological combats. Antefixes terminate roof tile rows with Gorgon faces, Maenads, satyrs. The Temple of Apollo at Veii, around 510 BCE, displays life-sized terracotta statues. Apollo and Heracles struggling over the Ceryneian hind, their archaic smiles frozen in eternal contest. The sculptor Vulca, summoned to Rome by Tarquinius Superbus, creates the Capitoline Temple's terracotta Jupiter. The material allows scale impossible in bronze, detail surpassing stone carving. Paint once brightened these figures, reds, blues, yellows now faded to bare clay. Bronze statuary achieves monumental ambition. The Chimera of Arezzo, discovered in 1553, demonstrates 5th century mastery. The triple-formed monster, lion body, goat rising from its back, serpent tail, captured mid-roar, wounded, defiant. The Mars of Todi, a votive offering from early 4th century BCE, stands in full armor, right arm extended in blessing or oath. The hollow cast technique allows figures of this scale, assembled from separately cast sections. Etruscan bronze workers supply Greek sanctuaries, Roman temples, aristocratic villas across the Mediterranean. The workshops train apprentices in secrets transmitted master to student. The furnace temperatures, the alloy ratios, the clay preparations, knowledge embedded in practice, not written. When Rome conquers the cities, when the language dies, when the workshops close, these techniques vanish. Medieval and Renaissance craftsmen will struggle to recreate what Etruscan artisans achieved routinely. The objects remain, mute testimony to mastery that burned bright, then extinguished. The sea betrays them first. In 474 BCE, off Cumai's volcanic shores, Etruscan warships meet the combined fleets of Syracuse and Cumae. The battle shatters more than hulls. It breaks the thalassocracy that sustained Etruscan wealth for 2 centuries. Ships burning on Tyrrhenian waters mark the end of naval dominance. Trade routes to Greek colonies, to Phoenician ports, to the resource-rich islands, all contract. The cities that grew wealthy on Mediterranean commerce watch their prosperity drain away like water through cuniculae. Rome begins its methodical advance. The city the Etruscan kings built now turns its engineering genius against its teachers. In 405 BCE, Roman legions surround Veii, barely 12 miles from Rome itself. The siege extends through 10 campaigning seasons, unprecedented in Italian warfare. Roman soldiers construct permanent camps, rotating troops, maintaining pressure through winters when armies traditionally dispersed. Inside Veii's Tufa walls, supplies dwindle. The city that once rivaled Rome in wealth and power, whose territory stretched across southern Etruria, slowly starves. Marcus Furius Camillus commands the final assault in 396 BCE. Roman engineers dig a tunnel beneath Veii's walls, emerging inside the citadel near the Temple of Juno. The city falls not to frontal assault, but to the siegecraft Etruscans themselves pioneered. Veii's population faces enslavement or exile. Rome annexes the territory, doubling its own landholdings. The first of the 12 cities vanishes as an independent power. The pattern repeats across Etruria. Capena falls in 395 BCE. Volsini resists until 264 BCE. Its destruction so complete, Romans relocate survivors to a new site. Tarquinia wars intermittently with Rome for a century, finally submitting in 281 BCE. Each city fights alone. The Dodecapolis League, never a unified political entity, cannot mount coordinated defense. The religious confederation that shared temples and festivals lacks mechanisms for collective military action. At Sentinum in 295 BCE, the last great coalition assembles. Etruscans join Samnites, Umbrians, and Gauls against Roman expansion. The battle rages across Umbrian fields, involving perhaps 70,000 warriors. Roman consul Publius Decius Mus performs the devotio ritual, sacrificing himself to the gods for victory. The allied forces shatter. Etruscan military power, already diminished by decades of defeats, collapses entirely. The François Tomb at Volsy, painted around 340 BCE, preserves the memory. Frescoes depict Etruscan heroes, Maxterna, Caele Vipinus, Aule Vipinus, battling Romans. The scenes celebrate Etruscan victories from earlier centuries, defiant assertions of martial glory even as Roman legions march through Etruria. The tomb's patron, Vel Setis, claims descent from these legendary warriors. His painted ancestors fight eternally on tomb walls while the living cities surrender. By 280 BCE, all 12 cities exist as Roman allies, socii in name, subjects in fact. They retain internal autonomy, their own magistrates and laws, but foreign policy belongs to Rome. Etruscan aristocrats begin adopting Latin names, Roman dress, Roman customs. The language persists in religious contexts, in tomb inscriptions, in family rituals. But Latin dominates public life. The cities that taught Rome urban planning, engineering, and statecraft become provincial towns in Rome's expanding empire. 2 centuries of conquest complete what Cumae's waters began, the long defeat that transforms masters into memories. The final erasure arrives not through conquest but bureaucracy. In 91 BCE, Italian allies, including Etruscan cities, demand what Rome long denied: full citizenship with voting rights. The social war erupts across the peninsula. Etruscan cities, already Romanized in culture, fight alongside rather than against Rome, but the conflict forces resolution. The Lex Julia of 90 BCE grants citizenship to all Italian communities that lay down arms or remain loyal. Etruscan aristocrats become Roman citizens, their sons eligible for Senate seats, their legal status indistinguishable from Latin neighbors. The transformation accelerates. In 27 BCE, Augustus reorganizes Italy into 11 administrative regions. Etruria, Regio 7, loses even nominal independence, becoming merely a geographic designation within the unified peninsula. The 12 cities that once formed a sovereign league exist now as municipia, their councils managing local markets and aqueduct maintenance, while Rome dictates war, taxation, and law. Tarquinia's Lucumones become duumviri, their ancient priestly kingship reduced to municipal magistracy with Latin titles. Yet the language clings to life in sacred contexts. Haruspices, Etruscan priests reading divine will in animal entrails, remain essential to Roman state religion through the imperial period. The Emperor Claudius, ruling 41 to 54 CE, writes a 20-volume Etruscan history in Greek, now lost except fragments. He marries an Etruscan noblewoman, Plautia Urgulanilla, and champions Etruscan cultural preservation even as the spoken language fades. The last datable Etruscan inscription appears on a boundary stone near Perugia In the 1st century CE, formulaic, ritualistic, perhaps already incomprehensible to those who carved it. But Etruscan legacy saturates Roman civilization so completely it becomes invisible. The fasces, axe bound in rods symbolizing magisterial authority, originates in Etruscan city-states. The toga with purple stripe marking senatorial rank derives from Etruscan ceremonial dress. Gladiatorial combat evolves from Etruscan funeral games. The Roman triumph ceremony, with its painted face and purple robe, replicates Etruscan royal regalia. Engineering fundamentals, the true arch, urban drainage systems, land surveying techniques, pass from Etruscan to Roman hands. Augury, the reading of bird flight to divine approval, remains central to Roman decision-making for centuries after Etruscan cities vanish from maps. The tombs endure. Through medieval centuries and Renaissance rediscovery, painted chambers at Tarquinia and Cerveteri preserve what written sources lost. Banqueting couples, dancing figures, musicians with double flutes, athletes and acrobats. Modern archaeology continues excavating necropoli, revealing a civilization that taught Rome statecraft, then dissolved into its students' expanding shadow, leaving behind painted smiles in underground darkness and the invisible architecture of Western power. Thank you for journeying with us through Etruscan civilization, from Villanovan origins to Roman legacy. Subscribe to explore more lost worlds that shaped our present.